I'm a truck driver. I've been on the road for over 10 years. And trust me, I've seen some weird things during my night shifts. There's something about empty highways at 3 a.m. that makes the world feel different. The air is heavier, the silence is louder, and sometimes you feel like you're not alone. But never, never in my life had I experienced anything like that night. That was the first time I was truly afraid of the road. It was a long haul, an 8-hour drive to deliver cargo to another state. I left the loading dock at sunset and got on the road. By 2 a.m., I was deep into Route 49, a long, isolated stretch of highway. No gas stations, no houses, just an endless road surrounded by dense forest. My high beams cut through the darkness, but beyond that, there was nothing but blackness. And then, I saw it. A car parked on the side of the road, hazard lights flashing. My first instinct was to slow down. Out here, with no cell service and temperatures dropping, leaving someone stranded wasn't an option. But as I got closer, something felt wrong. The car had no license plates. It looked old but spotless, not a speck of dirt, not a single scratch, like it had just been driven off the lot. And the strangest part? No one was inside. No driver, no passengers, nothing. I let my foot hover over the brake, taking a closer look. The windows were pitch black, too dark, like they weren't just tinted, but hollow. For a moment, I considered stopping. But then, a cold chill crawled up my spine. My gut screamed at me to keep driving, so I did. I had barely gone 2 miles when my headlights hit something on the road. At first, I thought it was roadkill, but as I got closer, I saw what it really was. A suitcase, wide open, its contents scattered across the pavement. Clothes, shoes, and something else. A teddy bear covered in dirt, missing one eye. Something told me that suitcase belonged to someone, and that someone wasn't far. My grip on the wheel tightened. Something wasn't right. I tried to shake the feeling off, telling myself it was just a coincidence. But then, my headlights lit up something ahead, and my heart stopped. It was the same car, parked on the side of the road. Hazard lights flashing. Same color, same model, same missing license plates. My breath caught in my throat. That was impossible. There were no turns, no intersections. No way that car could be here again. But this time, someone was inside. The driver's seat was occupied. A dark figure sitting perfectly still. I couldn't see their face. They didn't move. They just sat there, watching me. My foot twitched over the brake. But something, some primal instinct, told me to keep driving. Don't look, don't look, don't look. I passed the car without slowing down. But when I checked the rearview mirror, it was gone. My hands were slick with sweat. My throat was dry. I pressed the accelerator, trying to outrun whatever the hell was happening. Then, my radio crackled. Impossible. I was out of range. The radio shouldn't have picked up anything. I twisted the dial, trying to turn it off. And then, a voice. A whisper. You shouldn't have left me behind. A cold wave of dread washed over me. That voice. It came from the back seat. I didn't think. I just reacted. I slammed the brakes hard. The truck screeched to a stop, tires burning against the asphalt. I grabbed my flashlight and spun around. The back seat was empty. I threw open the door and jumped into the freezing night air, my heart pounding. I took deep, shaky breaths and shined the flashlight inside. Nothing but the back seat. It was sunken, like someone had been sitting there just seconds ago. Shaking, I climbed back into the truck and locked the doors. Then I floored it. I wanted off that road now. I don't know how long I drove before I finally saw a gas station. I pulled in, legs trembling as I stumbled into the bathroom, desperate to wash my face and clear my head. I looked up at the mirror, and my blood ran cold. There was something written on the glass. 3 words. It wasn't a mistake. I never took Route 49 at night again. And now, every time I pass a car with flashing hazard lights, I keep driving it. I never look back. I've been working security for about 5 years now. It's not the most exciting job in the world, but it pays the bills. And the night shifts give me plenty of downtime to read or watch videos on my phone. Most nights are slow, boring even. But every once in a while, something happens that makes me question why I ever took this job in the first place. This was one of those nights. It was a closing shift at an old shopping center on the outskirts of town. It used to be packed back in the day, but over the years, most of the stores shut down, leaving just a couple of pharmacies and a grocery store. My job was simple: walk the halls, check the doors, and make sure no one sneaks in after hours. Easy, right? At least that's what I thought. Around 1 a.m., I was finishing up my second round when something on the security monitors caught my eye. A man was standing in the parking lot just outside the locked entrance. No car nearby, no bike, no reason to be there, just standing. At first, I figured he was waiting for a ride, or maybe someone who worked late. But 10 minutes passed, and he hadn't moved. Not an inch. That's when the unease set in. I switched cameras, checking the angles, but it was the same story. Just him, standing there, staring at the entrance like he was waiting for something. I grabbed my radio and called Tom, the only other guard on shift with me that night. Tom was an older guy, used to do bank security before taking this job. I told him about the guy outside and said I'd check it out while he kept an eye on the cameras. When I walked up to the entrance, I could see him more clearly. He was wearing this heavy coat, the kind people wear in the dead of winter, but it wasn't even cold out. His head was tilted slightly downward, like he was staring at the ground. I shined my flashlight toward him and called out, "Hey buddy, the mall's closed. You waiting for someone?" No reaction. I tried again, a little louder this time. Nothing. That's when I noticed something else. His shoes. They were covered in mud, like he'd been walking through a swamp or something. Something about the whole situation felt off. I decided to head back to the office and call the cops if he didn't leave in the next few minutes. But just as I turned to go, I heard it. Tap, tap, tap. He knocked on the glass, 3 slow, deliberate taps. I turned back, and he was staring directly at me now. His face was blank. No expression, no anger, no pleading, just a pair of dark, empty eyes locked onto mine. A shiver ran down my spine. I didn't know what to do, so I just turned and walked back to the office. When I got inside, I locked the door and took a deep breath. "Tom," I said. "He just knocked on the glass." Tom frowned and switched to the parking lot camera. But when the screen came up, the guy was gone. I grabbed my flashlight and rushed back to the entrance, scanned the parking lot, checked every corner. Nothing. He was just gone. I felt my stomach tighten. No way he could have disappeared that fast. I jogged back to the security room, and Tom was still glued to the monitors. But he wasn't looking at the parking lot anymore. He was looking at the service hallway, and that's when I saw him. The man was inside. I froze. There was no way he could have gotten in. Every door was locked, and the alarms hadn't gone off. But there he was, walking down the dimly lit hallway, his footsteps eerily slow and deliberate. He stopped in front of a maintenance door and pressed his hand against it, like he was feeling for something. I swallowed hard and gripped my radio. "Call the cops, now!" Tom nodded and picked up the phone. I, on the other hand, grabbed my flashlight and my pepper spray. I'm gonna see what he's doing. Are you out of your damn mind? Wait for the cops. But I was already heading down the hall. When I reached the intersection where I'd seen him, he was gone. But the maintenance door? It was open. I hesitated for a second, my pulse hammering in my ears. Then, slowly, I pushed it open. The room was dark, cold. I swept the beam of my flashlight over the empty shelves, the dusty floor. And then I saw them. Footprints, not normal ones. They were wet, dark, almost oily, and they led straight to the corner of the room. I took a step back. My instincts screamed at me to get the hell out. I turned and slammed the door shut, practically running back to the security office. Cops on their way? I asked, trying to catch my breath. Tom nodded, but his face had gone pale. Look at the monitors, he muttered. I turned to the screen, dreading what I'd see. The service hallway camera was still on, but now, in the very corner of the frame, a hand, just barely visible. Fingers outstretched, motionless. And then, it was gone. 20 minutes later, the police showed up. They searched the whole building, top to bottom. They didn't find anyone. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, no proof that anyone had been there at all. But Tom and I, we knew what we saw. I never worked another night shift alone after that. And every time I do my rounds, I double-check the cameras, just to make sure he hasn't come back. I've been driving for a rideshare app for about 4 years now. I prefer the night shifts, less traffic, better tips, and there's a strange kind of calm on the road that, over time, I've grown to like. But some nights stay with you for the wrong reasons. This was one of those nights. It was almost 3 a.m., my last ride before heading home. I was exhausted, but I figured one more couldn't hurt. A request popped up on the app. The passenger's name was just Jay. Weird, but I accepted. The pickup location? An abandoned gas station. As I pulled up, my headlights lit up the place. Cracked pavement, a faded sign barely hanging on. The lot was completely empty. Except for him. A man stood by the gas pumps. He wore an old, worn-out suit. He wasn't moving. He wasn't on his phone. He was just standing there, waiting. Something inside me whispered, "Don't stop, keep driving." But curiosity and a $20 fare made me stay. I sighed and unlocked the doors. The man slid into the back seat. Without a word. The moment I pulled away from the gas station, I felt it. Something wasn't right. Most passengers stare at their phone, or out the window. Not him. He just sat there, completely still, watching me through the rearview mirror. I tried to break the silence. "Long night?" I asked. Nothing, not a single reaction. Just a smile. Slow, forced, too wide. A shiver ran down my spine. I swallowed hard and glanced at the GPS. "Well, we'll be there in about 15 minutes. He kept smiling. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. The GPS led me down a narrow, unlit road. No streetlights, no houses, just tall, dark trees stretching over the road like reaching hands. The further we went, the worse I felt. I checked the mirror. He was still there, still smiling. Then he spoke. His voice was too calm. "Have you ever wondered if all the passengers you pick up are real?" A cold chill crept up my spine. I forced a nervous laugh. "Well, I sure hope so." His smile widened. "Not all of them are." My stomach twisted. 5 more minutes, just 5 more minutes. But then he leaned forward and whispered, "You took the wrong road." My heart stopped. "No, I'm just following the GPS," I stammered. He shook his head, still smiling, always smiling. "You weren't supposed to take this route." I slammed the brakes. The car screeched to a stop. My pulse was pounding in my ears. I turned to look at him. But the back seat was empty. The door had never opened. The seatbelt was still fastened. He had just vanished. I sat there, gripping the wheel, frozen. Slowly, I reached for my phone and opened the app. The ride didn't exist. No record of it. Like it had never happened. I turned the car around and drove back to the city as fast as I could. I didn't take another ride that night. Or the next. Even now, every time I pick up a passenger, I check the mirror, just to make sure they're still there. Have you ever experienced something creepy? Share your story in the comments. I'll be reading. Don't forget to subscribe for more scary stories.